There's a way to seize the day. There's a place for the precious people.
Hi guys, Tania Rose here. I'd like to talk a little bit today about emotional emergencies. Now, you might find yourself in a situation where you've become a support person for someone going through a really tough time, an emotional emergency, where there's stuff going on that's just so overwhelming for that person that they're really struggling and have turned to you for support. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is how you can help that person get through. It's not something that everybody necessarily needs help with, but it's good to know that you can feel like you've got some kind of knowledge, some kind of step process that you can take someone through if you feel like you need that kind of help. Now, one thing to remind yourself of, as well as the other person at the right moment, is that feeling is not a failure. Feeling stuff makes us human. Feelings and emotions are what takes us away from being more android-like and more animal-like. And in fact, it's one of the things that is one of the greatest gifts that we have as humans. We have this ability to feel and to have an emotional response to something. So just because you're feeling something, or just because the person you're supporting is feeling something, doesn't mean they're failing. Now, support is really important, and if you're somebody who they've turned to, that's really good. But don't forget there's other options for support. Now, sometimes the support person needs support, which is obviously what this video is about. But sometimes you can find that you can encourage that person to have other kinds of support as well. Perhaps other friends, other family members, perhaps even a professional who might be able to help with a particular thing that's going on for that person. There's plenty of support and support information out there. And if you've got access to the internet, then you can find yourself looking at videos. There's books, there's booklets, there's websites, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can access. And that can sometimes be really helpful when we are trying to support someone who's perhaps gone through something that we ourselves haven't gone through. It's very difficult sometimes to relate to something that someone has gone through when we ourselves haven't gone through. It can be a real challenge. So by connecting with other support online, you can find yourself feeling a little bit more confident in the support that you can offer your friend or the person who you are supporting. Now, one thing to keep in mind: life happens and shit happens. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. And as much as you may be feeling that you wished you could have helped, or you may feel like, I should have been there, perhaps I could have helped this person get through this, or perhaps it wouldn't have happened if I was around. Life happens. It will always happen. So it doesn't matter whether you're the person experiencing the emotional state or whether you're a support person, understanding that life happens and there's sometimes nothing you can do about it is a really important thing to remember. The other thing to remember is that challenges do help us grow. As much as it can be a very distressing thing to go through, a big emotional experience, understanding that growth is there as a potential to come out of the experience is sometimes the only positive thing that we can experience, the only positive thing that we can relate to, that, well, after all this is over, at least I know that I am going to be wiser, or I'm going to have learnt something, I'll know better, or I will have grown as a person. And that goes for the support person as well, because it's not just the person going through the experience, but it's also the support person that can also grow and learn from the experience as well. Now, some tips for people who are going through emotional emergencies and their support people. One of the things is, as I said, seeking out support. That's really important. Some emotional emergencies can be a little bit more intense than others, and sometimes it's a really good idea to seek out professional help if you have access to it. You can never underestimate the power of somebody perhaps being experienced or knowing more information about experiences that come from the emotional side of things, and the support that they can offer because of the professional nature of their work can be a godsend to someone going through stuff. So be aware there are opportunities. There are free services that you can access depending on where you are in the world and what your circumstances are. But again, there's lots of online support as well that you can tap into. It is okay to feel. It really is okay to feel. So feeling and experiencing that emotion is okay. It's not something that you should try and not feel as soon as possible. Letting out those feelings can be really important and healthy. Holding them in can sometimes be a little more detrimental to a person. So allowing a person to actually go through and experience those emotions in a safe environment, perhaps, with yourself or another support person, where they can feel like they can express those emotions, can be a good stress relief for that person. So letting it out is another tip for sure. You can feel and then you can respond. If you're working on your responding mechanisms as opposed to your reactionary state, if you're somebody who's gone through that, which I spoke about in the last episode, then again, don't worry about feeling. The support person, which may be you, can perhaps express that as well, that it's okay to feel stuff and then it's okay to work on a response to that. You can do both. Just because you're feeling something doesn't mean it's reactionary. You can feel and then respond. Something else to keep in mind is keeping an eye on the needs of the person that actually is going through what they're going through. So quite often in emotional experiences that are quite big, we forget about looking after ourselves. If we're going through a big experience, we may forget to eat, forget to drink, forget to shower, forget to go outside and have some fresh air. All of those things are really important, and they're small things as well. Sometimes there may need to be some encouragement, and sometimes we may feel that encouragement is not welcome, but it is important for a person going through their emotional crisis, if you will, to be made aware that it's important for them to meet those needs. Fresh air, food, hygiene, all those things not only are important to obviously a person, but can also help them in going through the process. So sometimes a support person will find themselves needing to prompt those things to happen. And sometimes if that's all you're doing, listening to that person, being someone who's just there for them and helping them to meet those needs by maybe preparing a meal, letting them know, I think you should have a shower now, going to have a bit of a wash and getting some clean clothes and stuff like that. Sometimes that is the best support that you can offer. Another thing to think about is making a plan. Not just making a plan, but changing it too. So you may decide that we're working with that person that is going through that change. You guys might decide that, okay, we're going to make a plan and this is what we're going to do. So tomorrow we're going to go to somewhere and to access a service, or we're going to go and talk to that person, which in relation to what's going on, or we're going to go and write a letter, or we're going to make a plan of some kind. But then it's okay to change that plan, because sometimes when we decide something, especially if we're emotional about it, we may decide later on, after some reflection, you know what, I think we can do something that's actually going to be a little bit better than that. So make a plan, but by all means change it. It again doesn't mean that you're failing, and it doesn't mean that it was the wrong thing to start with. It's all a work in progress. So your plan can be a work in progress too, and things can change from moment to moment, especially when someone is going through a big emotional upheaval. Relapses are normal. It's incredibly stressful to go through an emotional experience, especially a big one. So sometimes a person may find themselves rallying and feeling good and okay, and maybe a few days or a week goes by and all of a sudden they feel like and look like they are back to square one. That isn't an abnormal thing. It's something that happens quite a lot. And once again, when a person does go through some kind of relapse, having support is so important, because not only will they get value out of having that support, but also quite often that person may experience guilt that, oh, I should be over this by now. I was fine for a week and now I'm not. And so they may be less likely to reach out for help. So again, it's really important, if you're a support person in a supportive role with that person going through that stuff, that you let them know it's okay and it's normal to feel like you're relapsing back into the emotional experience again. Something else that you might like to consider in your support of this person is building an escape hatch. Now, they can be all kinds of things. Say, for example, going for a drive, just getting out, getting away, changing the situation, moving from one room to the other, going for a walk. There are lots of different ways that we can build an escape hatch where we can actually have some downtime away from the situation. Now, if someone has had a very difficult experience in an environment, like let's say at their house or something, taking them outside of that environment when they're ready can be really beneficial, and it can help them adjust to that experience. We generally relate to environments in an emotional way when we have gone through an experience in that room or in that space. So it is important to be able to physically leave an environment and have that escape hatch so we can get out and at least have a bit of a break from it. Now, it's not always the case that we can do that, but sometimes it can be as simple as looking in a room and going, you know what, let's move all the furniture around. Let's just change something about this. Let's say that every time that person looks at that picture on the wall, they're reminded of whatever. Let's remove that picture. It can be small things that can help build that escape hatch, but it usually requires some kind of interaction in the physical world in order to relieve the pressure in the emotional world for that person. Another thing is, as you learn to be a support person, you may find that you're better prepared when this kind of thing happens again. And you may also be able to help that person get ready to be prepared for next time. Now, hopefully next time will never happen, but it may not necessarily be that kind of next time. So you may not have a repeat of that emotional experience, but you might go, you know what, okay, my friend's having this experience, I'm going to let them know that they need to text me. They need to text me. Anytime there is anything like this happening, they need to text me. That's the plan. That's the strategy that we'll build for next time. Being prepared for next time is really, really important. Sometimes people find themselves in a supportive role where they've never had to do that before. They've never been in a situation where they've been the person that someone has turned to. And it can be quite daunting to be in a situation where someone is turning to you and saying, help, I need your help. Can you help me? So think about what's going on. Think about what you're able to observe with what's happening. Think about the things that we've spoken about today, about help and support and all that kind of thing. And then you may find that you're a little bit more able to focus and help on things if they occur in the future, or if that person has a relapse. So for example, if you found that when you got out and went for a drive or went for a walk somewhere, that person actually calmed and they actually started to feel a little bit better and maybe even having a bit of a laugh or a smile or a bit of a joke, you may find that if they have a relapse, that you can come back and go, right, we're doing this. Let's do what we did last time. So that can be really helpful, being prepared for a next time or being prepared for a relapse. So that's all I have for now. I hope you've gotten something out of this video. If you feel you have, or would you like to share the video with somebody else, if you feel like it would help them, please do that. Like and subscribe if you'd like to have access to more of these videos and be notified of them. That's all from me for now. I hope you've enjoyed it, and look after yourselves.
There's a way.